Today we're reviewing for the quiz tomorrow on lessons 8.1 to 8.4. This is for algebra. Here's a copy of both parts of the study guide, and we're going to go through each problem one by one and explain how to get the answer. So, if you look at numbers 1 and 2, it asks you to find the degree of each polynomial. If you're asked to find the degree, you're looking for each term's exponent. If it does not have an exponent, such as 4a, you're going to assume that the exponent is 1. If it's a number, such as 2, the exponent is 0. So, if you look at each exponent in this problem, you have a 1, a 2 with the b, and then a 0. So the highest one is going to be the 2. So you're going to say that this is a second degree. Since there are 3 terms, you can go a little further and say that it's also a trinomial, which means 3 terms. Then we look at number 2. Number 2, the first term is 20VW, so the V and the W both have an exponent of 1. If you add those together, that makes the exponent for the term 2. Then if you look at the next term, VW cubed, the V there has a 1 as the exponent, and the W has a 3. So if you add those together, that would be a 4. The third term is W squared, so that the exponent is 2. So you have 2 terms that have a 2, and then you have one that has a 4. So this is going to be considered a 4th degree trinomial. And again, it's a trinomial because it has 3 terms. If it had 1 term, it would be considered a monomial. If it had 2 terms, it's a binomial. And anything more than 3 terms, we just call a polynomial. The next two, numbers 3 and 4, you're asked to write each polynomial in standard form. Standard form is also focusing on the exponents, and you need to order the exponents from greatest to least. So for number 3, you have a 2 with the first term, you have a 3 with the second term, the third term has a 1, and the fourth term is a number, so it's considered 0. So if we put it in order, that means we need to switch the first and the second terms. So the answer would be negative 4y cubed plus 3y squared plus y plus 10. And that would be in order or in standard form. Then we're going to continue to the next one. It also asks us to put this in standard form, number 4. And number 4 has a 2 as the exponent for the first term, a 4 as the exponent for the second term, a 1 for the third term, and a 0 for the fourth term. So again, we are just switching the first and second terms to put the exponents in order from greatest to least. So negative 5y to the fourth comes first. This is number 4. Negative 5y to the fourth. Then 2y squared plus y minus 12. And that would be our answer for number 4. For the next two, you're going to either add or subtract. When adding and subtracting, you need to combine like terms, but like terms have to have the same variable and exponent to be combined. If they do not have the same variable and exponent, they cannot be combined. So number 5 says find each sum or difference. This is a sum. So we're going to look for like terms. We have the first term here is negative 3y squared. And then there's another term in the second grouping that's also a y squared. So we're going to add those together. Negative 3y squared plus 6y squared, which gives us positive 3y squared. And then we keep going, looking for like terms to combine. So you have a y next and an x. We cannot combine those, so we're just going to write them as they are. So plus y minus 3x. And then you have a 5 and a negative 1. So we're going to combine those because they're both numbers. So 5 and negative 1 is going to give me positive 4. And that would be my final answer. That is all that I can combine. And then number 6, same idea, combine like terms with variables and exponents that are the same. So these terms 6a and negative 3a both have, or minus 3a, both have a's with them. So we're going to do 6a minus 3a, which is 3a. And then we're going to combine the b's. So you have an 8b minus a 3b. So that's going to give me a 5b. And it's a positive 5b, so I separate those with a plus sign. Now the next problems are related to multiplication. We're going to skip number 7 for now and come back to that. Number 8, I actually have a different one that might be a little bit better, so I'm going to not go over number 8 and give you a different answer and problem. So we're going to start with 9 and then go back to 7 and 8. So 9 says find each product. For 9, 11, 12, 13, and 14, all of these, notice, are having two binomials that you're multiplying by each other. So binomials, remember, means two terms. So whenever you have two binomials that you multiply by each other, you can always use the FOIL pattern. So we're going to use that for 9, 11, 12, 13, and 14. So 9 is 3x plus 1 times x minus 2. If we use the FOIL pattern, that means first, outer, inner, last. So first terms are going to be the 3x and the x, the first terms in each set of parentheses. So 3x times x means that I'm going to add the exponents and multiply the coefficients. So 3 times 1 is 3. X times x is going to be x squared. That gives us our first term. Then you start with the outer, and then you continue with the outer terms, which is going to be 3x and negative 2. If we multiply those together, that gives us negative 6x. And then we multiply the inner terms, which are 1 and x. That's going to give me 1x, or positive 1x. And then we multiply the last terms of the parentheses, which is 1 and negative 2, which gives me negative 2. And then I look to see if I can combine any that have the same variable and exponent. And that's going to be negative 6x and 1x, which gives me negative 5x. So my final answer, 3x squared minus 5x minus 2. Here we again have two binomials that we're multiplying together, so we're going to continue to use the FOIL pattern. So first, 4m times m, 4m squared. Outer, 4m times 3, 12m. Inner, negative 2 times m, negative 2m. And last, negative 2 times 3, negative 6. Again, we can combine the middle terms, 12m minus 2m, because they have the same variable and exponent, which gives us 4m squared plus 10m minus 6. Here we're continuing with another example where we can use the FOIL pattern. This time we have two different variables, but we can multiply two variables together. We'll just write them as next to each other when that means multiplication. So 2x times 2x would be 4x squared for the first terms. Then we have the outer terms, 2x times negative 3y, negative 6xy. Then we have the inner terms, 4y times 2x, that's plus 8xy. And then we have the last terms, 4y times negative 3y, so that's negative 12y squared. We can combine the middle terms since they both have an x and a y and the same variables. So we have the same variables and the same exponents. So 4x squared, negative 6 plus 8 is positive 2xy, and then minus 12y squared. So this would be my final answer. For this one, number 14, this says x plus 5 squared. You can also think of this as x plus 5 times x plus 5, which means that's two binomials that we're multiplying by, so we can use the FOIL pattern again. We're going to take the first terms, multiply. X times x is x squared. The outer terms, x times 5, 5x. The inner terms, 5 times x, 5x. And the last terms, 5 times 5, 25. Again, we can combine the middle terms, so we get x squared plus 10x plus 25. Here's another example of two binomials that we're multiplying together, so we can use the FOIL pattern. A times a is a squared. Then we have the outer, 2b times a, which is 2ba. And then we have the inner, negative 2b times a, which is negative 2ba. And then we have last, 2b times 2b, or negative 2b times 2b, which is negative 4b squared. So we can combine our middle terms, which actually cancel themselves out. So we're left with a squared minus 4b squared as our final answer. Here's a different kind of multiplying. So you have two terms for the first binomial, and then you have multiplied by a trinomial. So we're going to actually have to distribute here twice to make sure we've multiplied every term by the other terms. So we have 2b that we need to multiply by 4b squared, as well as negative b, as well as 1. And then we're going to do the same with the second term. So 2 times 4b squared times negative b times 1. And then when we're finished, we're going to combine any like terms. So 2b times 4b squared is 8b cubed. 2b times negative b, that's going to be negative 2b squared. 2b times 1, positive 2b. Then we continue to the number 2, the next term. So 2 times 4b squared is going to be 8b squared. 2 times negative b is going to be negative 2b. And 2 times 1 is going to be positive 2. So we can combine the negative 2b squared with the 8b squared to get positive 6b squared. So we have 8b cubed plus 6b squared. And then we can combine the 2b with the negative 2b, and that cancels itself out. And you still have a plus 2 left over. So this would be my final answer. This one, it asks us to simplify and then pick the correct choice out of the multiple choice. So we're going to need to distribute first and then start combining like terms. So 6b squared times b and 6b squared times 8. That's going to give us 6b cubed plus 48b squared. Then we continue, negative 3b times 2b squared. That's going to give us negative 6b cubed. Negative 3b times negative 4b is positive 12b squared. And negative 3b times 2 is negative 6b. So if we look to combine like terms, 6b cubed minus 6b cubed cancels itself out. 48b squared plus 12b squared is 60b squared. And then negative 6b is left over, so we continue and just write it as minus 6b, which is the multiple choice answer of C for number 7. And I've saved the hardest for last. This on the quiz is asking you to solve the equation for x, so we're going to need to do a lot of simplifying first, which starts with distributive property. So starting with the beginning, we have 4x times x and 4x times 5. So that's 4x squared minus 20x. And then we continue, negative 2x times 3x, negative 6x squared. Negative 2x times 2 is negative 4x plus 108. And all that equals, we continue, 3x times 2x, which is 6x squared. 3x times 5, that's minus 15x. Negative x times 8x, which is negative 8x squared. And negative x minus 3 is positive 3x. So we need to combine like terms on the same side of the equal sign before we combine across the equal sign. So we can do 4x squared minus 6x squared. That gives us negative 2x squared. Then we can do 20x, or negative 20x, minus 4x. That gives us negative 24x. Then we can do plus 108. And then that equals 6x squared minus 8x squared is negative 2x squared. Whoops. Then we have negative 15x plus 3x, which is negative 12x. So now that we have all of the terms combined on the same side of the equal sign, now we can combine them across the equal sign. So we can combine the x squareds. We can either add the 2x squared from here or from the other side. But either way, notice that they cancel themselves out. And you're left with negative 24x plus 108 equals negative 12x. Now to solve for x, we're going to need to get x by itself, so we need to move the x's together. We have to move the 24x over to be with the 12x by adding it. And then we have 108 equals 36x. So we divide by 36, divide by 36, and we get 3. X equals 3. And that concludes our review for the quiz on lessons 8.1 to 8.4.